Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning on in today for today's live. My name is Eileen Nicole. Please hit the like button and subscribe. It helps the video. I just wanted to take the time to talk about this Trump presidency and what's going on. The fact that he is now president and he's writing all of these executive orders and what that really means for basically the proletariat and us as Black people in the proletariat and anyone else that may be affected by this. But in my opinion, Donald Trump has nothing to lose. This is his last term. He doesn't have to run for another term. So he's not really, he's throwing caution to the wind. So he's just doing whatever he wants to do. And at the end of the day, he's showing that by the first thing he gets in office, and when he gets in office, the first thing that he does is write a bunch of executive orders rolling back things that have happened in the past that he doesn't like, that he wants to see changed. And it's not just him, it's the powers that be that want these things changed, and he's obeying those powers. Also, in addition to that, people around him are, investing in his campaign and businesses and in his life and in his network's lives. And so he's doing these things, that will benefit him. A great leader is a leader, is someone who serves the people and in return has some form of service back from the people. A dictator is one who only wants something for themselves and that's it. They're big, a bloodsucker that continuously suck the blood and the life out of the host. And the proletariat in this example is the host. And even though his base thinks that they are exempt, they were the very first to got with Trump coin. But let's take a look at the different executive orders that he's already signed so far. So let's go ahead and share here. Okay, let's do. All right. All right, so I am sharing the screen here. And hold on. All right, so let's take a look at this is Politico, and this is a running list of Trump's planned executive orders, actions, proclamations, and legislations. So this is what he's already signed, and he's looking to sign over the course of his presidency. It says here, it's unclear which of President Donald Trump's executive actions will have immediate impact or merely symbolic. Listen, there's nothing symbolic about rolling back some really important pieces of legislation that has helped to balance this country in certain areas. Not every single area, no, but in a lot of areas. So let's take a look at it. So Donald Trump is promising a golden age of America. And what he's meaning is the Gilded Age, meaning they're going to siphon as much money as they can out of the proletariat. They're going to divide the proletariat and siphon off as much wealth as they can. And we know this because Trump already put out a meme coin, what they call it, a shit coin. He's already put this out. Melania has already put one out. Their base is the one who bought into this coin. So they've already basically turned on their own. So there's no loyalty outside of that. You should be loyalty to your base if nothing else, but he's already turned on them. So we already know what's to come for the rest of us. Donald Trump is promising a golden age of America in his second term, and he's issuing a raft of executive orders to try to make it happen. The president signed a slew of orders, directives that aim to end birthright citizenship, a crackdown on illegal crossing at the southern border, increase domestic energy production, and transform a federal government he views as both too bloated and too woke. And I'm woke. So it's too black. So when they say black, when they say woke, they mean black. It's too black. It's too bloated, meaning anybody, they're trying to trim off anybody that isn't in that 1%. Bloated meaning anything beyond the 1%, because Donald Trump has been the 1% for a very long time. And that's what his network is. So he's not making any bones about it. So let's take a look at the first one, the January 6th pardons. Now, when he has given an interview, and they asked him if he would pardon the January 6th rioters, and he was like, "Oh well, I'm going to take a look at and see. Some people should be in there, and some people." He basically lied and said that he wasn't going to pardon all of them, but he did. Trump pardoned some 1,500 people who were involved in the January 6, 2021 riot at the U.S. Capitol, a sweeping grant of clemency that fulfilled a campaign trail promise and upended years of the Justice Department's efforts. Immigration. Trump signed a slew of executive orders on Monday aimed at delivering on his long-promised crackdown on illegal border crossing and immigration more broadly. He also declared a national emergency at the U.S.-Mexico border, deploying U.S. armed forces to the region, in particularly to Texas, because a lot of people enter in through Texas, also through Arizona, which is my state, that they enter into as well. He intends to end birthright citizenship by issuing an executive action that would reinterpret the 14th Amendment that grants citizenship to all people born on domestic soil, a move that drew swift legal challenges, including from Democratic attorneys general. Now, he's going to get a bunch of lawsuits, but it's still legal for him to do these executive orders, and while it's in litigation, the order still stands. Do you understand? The order will still stand. That's why he's still writing them, because it still stands until it's overturned, or if it even is overturned. Just by the way, I mean, the Congress is stacked and the U.S. Supreme Court is stacked. So I don't see how this is not going to be reinterpreted. Right. So Trump also moved to resume construction of the border wall in so-called catch and release, temporarily suspend refugee settlement from certain countries for at least 4 months. So restart the remain in Mexico policy of his first term, restrict asylum using the 212F of the Immigration and Nationality Act, designate drug cartels and gangs as foreign terrorist organizations, and invoke the Alien Enemies Act of 1798 to remove them, or, as he puts it in his inaugural address, eliminate the presence of all foreign gangs and criminal networks bringing devastating crime to U.S. soil. Let me tell you something about this. He is going to find a way to these criminal gangs and foreign gangs and criminal networks. He's going to find a way to reinterpret that law to Black people. Now, even though we were born here and we have more birth citizens, we've been here since before the country was America. So he's going to find a way to try to get these gangs that are in different parts of the world, of this country, I should say, out of America. Trust me, this is going to it's going to find its way into the Black community. This he already said is too woke and it's too so you're going to find a way to target us. So direct the incoming Attorney General to seek capital punishment of law enforcement and capital crimes committed by undocumented immigrants. In the energy, so that's what he's planning on doing for immigration. For energy, Trump wants to drill, baby, drill, drill, baby, drill. He's going to do it by declaring a national energy emergency. That would give him the power to increase domestic energy production and undo many of Biden administration's clean energy policies. The White House also announced that the U.S. will withdraw again from the Paris Climate Accord. Among Trump's other planned moves, issue a memorandum detaining a government-wide approach to bringing down inflation. The federal workforce, we want to work remote. Good luck. Trump signed executive orders last night focused on the federal workforce, including one order instructing all U.S. government departments and agencies to require employees to return to office, ending any remote accommodations. Trump also announced a hiring freeze across the executive branch, except in essential areas. Now, when he says the hiring freeze, but they also are fired a bunch of black people and people who classify themselves as people of color. The president also removed job protections for tens of thousands of government workers, which the White House said was necessary to rein in what Trump describes as deep state bureaucracy. Among Trump's other planned moves, in radical and wasteful diversity training programs, as well as environmental justice programs, equity-related grants, and equity initiatives. Freeze hiring except in essential areas to end the onslaught of useless or overpaid Black people. Activists buried into the, he calls them activists that are buried into the federal workforce, according to the White House. But you know what's funny? The FBI came out with a report and said that the white supremacist has infiltrated the FBI, right? And the police force, right? You don't see that he wants to end an onslaught of useless and overpaid white supremacists. Do you understand? So when I say he's targeting people, he's targeting Black people, and they don't like really anybody. So anybody that will classify themselves as a person of color. Freeze the issuing of new regulations, direct agencies to address the cost of living crisis, restore freedom of speech and preventing government censorship, and create a Department of Government of Efficiency. Here's the thing. When they say free speech, that means that they should be able to defame you in a way or talk to you in a way that allows them to dehumanize you. So then you're back into the corner where ultimately you'll be allowable for people to harm you or threaten you. This is what free speech means to people like Donald Trump and his cabinet. So let's move on to health. So Trump said in his speech, the White House will instruct the State Department and Department of Homeland Security, as well as other agencies, to remove non-binary or other options from federal documents, including passports and visas, according to an incoming administration official. It will officially be the policy of the U.S. government that there are only two genders, male and female. He also signed an executive order removing the U.S. from the World Health Organization. Among Trump's other planned moves, reinstate military members who were penalized for not getting vaccinated for COVID-19. Now, I actually agree with that because I don't think that people should be forced to take some sort of what y'all called a vaccine. Because I never took that vaccine, and I wasn't about to take the vaccine. I feel like people were being coerced in a very assertive way, and I didn't like that. I did not like that. You were being demonized by the general population for not wanting to take some vaccine that wasn't working anyway. Anyways, let's move on to trade. So with trade, Oops. Trump hasn't enacted new tariffs yet. Instead, he's issued an order on Monday directing federal agencies to investigate and address trade deficits and unfair trade and currency practices. But we already know that he's already planned on putting tariffs on China and Russia. So that's unfair, because you know what's going to happen with the tariff? That money is, they're going to start to charge more so that they can collect that from the US citizens. So they don't care about no tariff. They're going to just pass the money on to us. That doesn't make any sense. Anyway, but he doesn't care. I told you, it's about the siphoning of resources from the proletariat, the little resources that we do have. The rest extend the deadline for TikTok to be divested or banned, a move that has questionable legality. I don't know if that is even illegal for them to be able to say that has to have a U.S. owner when there are dozens of other countries that have foreign companies like NVIDIA. NVIDIA is a foreign company. They're not telling them to do that. I mean, I'm sure that they have an office here in the States, but so does TikTok. But I don't think that's legal for them to say that I mean, they have, if there's like evidence that they were weaponizing our information, then yeah, I guess, obviously. But they never said that they had evidence. They just said they had suspicions, or they just wanted to, you know, I just think that TikTok is making too much money and they need to get in on it. And this is the way of doing it. That's my opinion. Suspend U.S. foreign assistance programs for 90 days pending a review of whether they align with his agenda. That's crazy to me. And rename the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. He'll also return to Mount Denali in Alaska and name Mount McKinley, reversing an Obama-era change. Now, remember, like when Trump was in office last time, he did he changed a bunch of he reversed a bunch of what Obama had done, and he has spent a good part of the first quarter of his presidency just changing, reversing what Obama did. So I imagine he's going to be doing the same. Now I'm wondering if he's going to reverse any of those pardons that Biden gave to his family and to, those other, he pardoned a bunch of people, not just family, but he pardoned a bunch of people. I'm not a Democrat, but I do know that he pardoned a bunch of people. I don't know how many people a president can pardon, but I do know that he's been reversing back or rescinding a bunch of the executive orders that the President Obama and Biden had been. All right, so this is Axios. President Trump began pledging a MAGA makeover, taking a slew of executive actions to walk back Biden-era policies and fulfill bold promises. Really, these were not promises. He never said anything about a lot of these things, but he did. President Trump Executive Orders List 2025. Really, this gives me Project 2025. Mass deportation. So we kind of went over this, but let's go over this one here. Trump designated certain international cartels and organizations such as Tren de Aragua and MS-13 as foreign terrorist organization, and announced plans to invoke an Alien Enemies Act of 1798 to target them. Trump suspended U.S. refugee admissions program resettlements until such time as the further entry into the U.S. of refugees aligns with the interests of the U.S. Homeland Security will report back within 90 days whether resuming refugees entries will be in the interest of America. Nearly 1,660 Afghans cleared by the U.S. to resettle in the country, including family of active duty U.S. military personnel, had their, including family of active duty U.S. military personnel, had their flights canceled following Trump's orders. Trump also ordered Homeland Security to terminate all categorical parole programs that are contrary to the policies of the U.S. Established in his executive orders, including those for refugees fleeing Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela. There's a remain in Mexico policy where they have to stay at the border. Look, I do think that the border process should be organized better. The way that Biden, see, I blame a lot of this on the Democrats and the way that Biden got in here and was just very loose with his presidency. He let anybody in the border. He gave a bunch of people money that should not have had, just carte blanche, just American dollars. Like, what the hell? And it was tax dollars that he was given, because America has a sovereign government, a government, meaning that we can print our own money and we can write down our own debt. All he had to do was print money from their own coffers instead of using our tax dollars, and then our tax dollars could have went towards something else that we had. But he didn't do that. He used our tax dollars, and the I think it was $6 trillion that they had. How much was it? Biden did that Build Back Better. I think it was $3 trillion that went into that Build Back Better program, where it was supposed to go towards infrastructure, but it didn't really help the economy. And that's crazy. You would think $3 trillion would help stimulate the economy, but it didn't. And so I do think that the border should be organized way better. I feel like if people are coming in here illegally and then they get jobs, there should be some type of, I don't know if deporting them is the most cost-effective thing, because you have to pay money for them to get deported. Also, it could, it could hurt relationships that we have with other countries. So I think that it's important that we are strategic in the way that we do it. I don't think that we should just start mass deporting people, because that's going to be a mass strain on the economy, because we know they're not going to just start printing money, even though we have the ability to do it. That's just not something we typically would do. So we do have to strategize in the way that we're doing. I think that people that come in this country should be penalized in different ways, ways that would benefit the country and turn it into an asset, instead of just, getting people out of here, because that doesn't really do anything. Obviously, it's not doing anything, because people are still coming to the U.S. In this way. So the birthright citizenship executive order. The birthright citizenship is protected by the U.S. Constitution, and the order already faces legal challenges, as it should. Look, everybody that came over here and settled and made this country into America, because it was Turtle Island before it became America, and we were here when it was Turtle Island. So when it became America, everybody that was coming over here were immigrants. So this is why it's in the Constitution. So you're messing with the people who have been here since y'all started America, since y'all started this country called America. I just think that this can be challenged in that way if this goes through. Like, if this goes unchallenged, like, you could say, well, it's not the Nicaraguans and the Haitians and the Colombians. They're not the only ones that are birthright citizens, right? So, like, it's like, well, where does it stop? Is it, it says at the time of the birth, and their father was not a U.S. citizen. Why does it say Trump ordered agencies starting 30 days after the order not to recognize babies as citizens if their mothers were unlawfully present at the time of birth, and their fathers was not a U.S. citizen or a lawful permanent resident. That also applies to children born to mothers who are lawful temporary residents and fathers who were not citizens or lawful permanent residents. That's wild. So I can be a lawful citizen, And if I decide to have a child with a man who is, let's say, oh wait, it's not. I could, if it was a man that was from Europe, that's fine. But if he was from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, or Venezuela, and I'm sure that list is going to get longer. If he was from anywhere of those, then that means that my child would not be a birthright citizen. That's what that's saying. So even if I'm a mom and I was born here, my people been here since before when it was Turtle Island. Okay, we're not immigrants. We're not migrants. So, but I'm still a lawful citizen, right? So if I have a child with a person that's from one of these 4 countries that he don't like, then my child is not a birthright citizen, and that's some trash. That's some trash, straight up. Because what you're not finna do is tell me that my child is not a birthright citizen. Get out of here. So listen, let me tell you something. All of these executive orders, and we're going to keep going down here, but at the end of the day, the only way that this is going to stop is if the proletariat stands up and say something. We can't just sit here and just get mad about it, even though it's pissing me off. We can't. That can't be the only thing. That has to get us up. But then we got to organize and respond back legally. We can lodge legal complaints against these orders because this directly affects us and our, who we are dealing with, right? Anyway, Trump declared a national energy emergency, ordering expedited, deregulated drilling, as he repeatedly vowed, drill, baby, drill. Now, he particularly wants to go to Venezuela, and he really wants to kind of occupy Venezuela and take their oil. Occupy meaning military, under military control. He wants to go over there, steal their oil, and he wants to do this carte blanche. He doesn't want to have any type of, this is why he's deregulating it. He doesn't want any type of, anybody saying anything to him. Listen, at the end of the day, we are going to have to strategize about this. This can't just, we listen, our normal mode of responding to these type of things would be to go to Congress, or would be to protest. Those things are out the window. That's not going to work. That's not going to work this time. We have to file legal complaints, and we need a third party involved that is responsible enough to assist us with holding this country accountable. But we can't just come with a hard heart. We can't just just be like, oh, we're mad or pissed off. We need to have our stuff in order. Okay, listen, this is basically war against the proletariat at the end of the day, and we can't sit here and act like it's not, because that's what it is. All these executive orders, he has been campaigning for 4 years. You don't think he's been having these all up in his arsenal? He's been having his cabinet for 4 years. He's been knowing who he was going to pick, who he's going to have here and there. People thought he wasn't. No, he had his, strategy up and ready to go. But a lot of people in America still serve the Most High God, Jesus Christ, and the Holy Spirit. A lot of people still do, and I'm one of them. You're not just going to run over God's people. You're not just going to do it. We can't be scared or numb to this. We have to be responsive, and we have to be responsible with that responsiveness. So, over the next, however long, we need to keep an eye on this and continue. We have to strategize on the way. And mostly because, I have ideas. I have things that I would like to do. But the best way to overcome these things that are happening is for us to collaborate on what you think should happen and what I think should happen, and how do we do that legally? How do we get those things done? How do we get those things funded? How do we get those things accomplished. Because at the end of the day, it means nothing. All the fighting means nothing if nothing actually gets through. But these are some of the things that he's basically dividing the country up. He's balkanizing the country. And let me show you what the word balkanize mean. Oops. Okay, balkanize versus balkanization. Balkanize is an adjective describing a region that has been divided into smaller, often hostile political units, while balkanization is the process of dividing a region into such smaller, often hostile units, with the term organizing from the historical conflicts of the Balkan Peninsula. Essentially, balkanized refers to the state of being divided, while balkanization refers to the act of dividing, right? Balkanization is the process balkanization is the process involving the fragmentation of an area, country, or region into multiple smaller and hostile units. So what that means, so they're applying this macro war tactic on the American public. This is the move that Trump is making right now. This is what these executive orders are, balkanization orders. That's my opinion about it, based off of the textbook definition. He's dividing the proletariat into hostile units, is he not? And so we have to respond to the balkanization. That's what we have to respond to. We can't be scared, because this is not the time to be scared. We shouldn't be scared about it, because we already know what the move is. Anyway, so he's doing all this. So the TikTok ban is going to be suspending the TikTok ban for 75 days, formally establishing the Department of Government Efficiency. And what they mean is not helping the proletariat in any way, because they're only want to extract, and they want you to understand that they're not here to help you. They're not your friends. One of the longstanding policies of the U.S. is that we don't have any permanent friends. We don't have any permanent enemies. We only have permanent interests. And their only permanent interest is money and power. And if they feel that you have too much of it, like with the George Floyd protests, like with being woke, like having an independent thought process, like with being able to afford certain things, more and more Americans are being able to afford certain things. That's too much power y'all have, and that has to go. They want that extracted. They want us to have as little power as possible. But listen, at the end of the day, it's not their choice. It's not their decision. Now, they can take the power if we do nothing about it, but sit here and cry and be mad, then yeah, they can take it. But if we go to God, and we don't cry to each other, and we don't cry to ourselves, and we don't cry to the government, but we cry to God, that's it. He will give us the orders on what to do next, the plans to do what to do next, on how to strategize, on how to respond to this balkanization policy that's being spread out all over the U.S. Because they're not going to stop at what is perceived to be the outsiders. We are the outsiders. We're not part of the 1%. They're just edging they're hedging it. They're hedging it. So eventually they're like, oh no, we're talking about the 1%, and then the people who are in the country that shouldn't be here, and the people outside of the country that want to come in, they're hedging it until eventually it's going to be you, and it's going to be them, and it's always going to be you that has to go until it's just them. But I just wanted to go over this. I did have a video here with Donald Trump. I want to listen to this video. Hold on.
That it's never acceptable to assault a police officer.
Sure.
So if I can, among those who pardoned DJ Rodriguez.
Hold on.
you would agree that it's never acceptable to assault a police officer.
Sure.
So if I can, among those who pardoned DJ Rodriguez, he drove a stun gun into the neck of a DC police officer who was abducted by the mob that day. He later confessed on video to the FBI and pleaded guilty for his crimes. Why does he deserve the pardon?
Because the American public is tired of people like you that are just one-sided, horrible people.
Yeah, how dare you oppose my decision to pardon a man who used a stun gun on police by citing my own center on being the most, quote, pro-police president of our time.
The president has the pardoning authority. It's his decision. It was a weaponization of the Justice Department. There was a weaponization of the events, the executions that happened after January 6th.
2 minutes later.
To us, it is disgusting. To us, it probably proves the suspicion that, they call it Biden crime family. If they weren't the crime family, why do they need pardons, right? Look, there's a lot of attention that's going to be paid to this. Looking at it as well. The president's mentioned, I don't second guess those.
That's right, folks. We are so back when President Donald Trump is dodging and whatabouting his way through a press conference as he tries to make excuses for pardoning a violent Capitol rioter. Now, as we know, Donald Trump granted clemency on Inauguration Day for around 1,500 convicted on the January 6, 2021 Capitol insurrection, but his inclusion of those who attacked police reportedly went beyond what his own party wanted. And during press briefing, NBC News' Alexander brought up one particular case to the returning president, setting a perfect trap to willfully fall into, because of course he did. I mean, this is the guy who was barely awake when he was getting called out to his face at the prayer breakfast. But I won't hold my breath waiting for 1,000 New York Times editorials on his mental acuity.
We are one of the largest and most trusted heating and air conditioning companies
Sorry,
here in the
y'all.
area. And for the month of January, we have an inventory clear out.
I hope that y'all could.
In the name of our God, I ask you, have mercy upon the people in our country who are scared now. There are gay, lesbian, and transgender children in Democratic, Republican, and independent families, some who fear for lives. And the people who pick our crops and clean our office buildings, who labor in poultry farms and meat packing plants, who wash the dishes after we eat in restaurants and work the night shifts in hospitals, they may not be citizens. The proper documentation. But the vast majority of immigrants are not criminals.
But when asked that he agreed that it is never acceptable to assault a police officer, Donald Trump said, sure, before being told how he's made it acceptable to assault a police officer.
Executive orders, you would agree that it's never acceptable to assault a police officer.
Sure.
So then if I can, among those who pardoned DJ Rodriguez, he drove a stun gun into the neck of a DC police officer who was abducted by the mob that day. He later confessed on video to the FBI and pleaded guilty for his crimes. Why does he deserve a pardon?
Well, I don't know. Is it a pardon? Because we're looking at pardons. Okay, well, we'll take a look at everything. But I can say this. Murderers today are not even charged. You have murderers that aren't charged all over. You take a look at what's gone on in Philadelphia. You take a look at what's gone off in LA, where people murder people and they don't get charged. These people have already served years in prison. And they've served them viciously. It's a disgusting prison. It's been horrible. It's inhumane. It's been a terrible, terrible thing. Because the American public is tired of people like you that are just one-sided, horrible people.
And as we know with Trump, when
Okay, so I just wanted to play that because Donald Trump seems to have this, again, one-sided, he's a hypocrite. He has the one-sided viewpoint. But let's continue. So this news story is about Trump's mass deportation plans, and so let's take a look.
As we first brought you at the top of the newscast, the Pentagon will begin to bring as many as 1,500 active duty troops to help secure the southern border in the coming days.
Deportations in cities like New York could start soon. Our Jessica Formoso joins us now. And Jess, you actually sat down with the commissioner of the mayor's office of immigrant affairs. What do they have to say?
Yeah, Natasha, see, that's right. I did. And there's a lot of unknowns. Our local officials can't give us concrete answers as to what could happen in the coming days. Multiple reports say raids will start in Chicago and then New York. What we do know is the mayor is talking to ICE officials about migrants who have committed crimes. The question is, if mass deportations take place in our city, what would it look like, and does the city have a plan?
On day one, I will launch the largest deportation program.
Before he was sworn in, President Donald Trump was vocal about initiating the largest mass deportation in U.S. history. And in his first day in office,
all illegal entry will immediately be halted, and we will begin the process of returning millions and millions of criminal aliens back to the places from which they came.
while details of how and when are scarce, the commander-in-chief has said he plans to mobilize the U.S. military to enforce the operation, an operation that has many migrants on edge. I do not feel safe. I do not feel safe. Jason Gonzalez arrived in New York City from Venezuela with his wife and children in October. They've been in the city's care ever since. First placed in Floyd Bennett Field, a makeshift shelter, national park, which is federal property.
Teníamos mucho temor.
We were very afraid because these are federal lands where we fear that with President Trump's return to the presidency, we could witness raids here. That shelter was closed earlier this month. So what would mass deportations look like across the country?
They're talking about workplace raids, family separations, strict restrictions on new immigrants, and potentially deporting, they say, 11 to 20 million people.
We have more than 16 million people in the United States who don't have full rights to be here.
Musafer Chisti is an attorney and senior fellow and director of the Migration Policy Institute at New York University School of Law. He believes deportations will happen. As to how many people could be deported, that remains to be seen.
I think you have to take the administration on its word that there will be some kind of mass deportation. What mass is, no one knows.
Laws, due process, he says, need to be followed, but the fear is real among the community. Jason worries schools and other sensitive locations may be targets.
Como que adoctrinar a los niños a saber qué van a hacer.
We are training our children to know what to do if something happens. It makes me very afraid that they could pick me up in the streets and never make it back home to children. We are placing all their documentation in their backpacks, telephone numbers, so that they are prepared.
It's important not to allow panic to set in.
Manuel Castro is the commissioner. He says over 220,000 asylum seekers have arrived in New York City. Today, 51,000 remain under the city's care. That's not counting the hundreds of thousands of undocumented immigrants living for years across our city. Does the city have a plan?
First thing is to make sure that our city staff at all levels is trained on our sanctuary laws and our sanctuary city policies. Now, as city employees, we cannot cooperate with enforcement, but we also cannot interfere with enforcement.
But what will the city do if such plan is carried out?
There is only so much we can do to protect immigrants. The federal government has said they will enforce immigration law whether they receive support from cities or not.
Has the mayor or yourself or anyone in the administration been able to speak to the incoming administration? Have they been able to prepare you for anything?
There's so much that's still unknown.
Adams, who has met with President Trump, has been vocal about deporting migrants who have committed violent crimes.
People who commit these violent crimes must be addressed. And that is our conversation with ICE.
Here's the thing. The reason why all this is happening, this is the polarization of the presidency. Biden was so loose with his presidency. He let anything go. He let the economy go. He let the immigration organization go. He was very loose with these wars. He was loose with the money that we was given. He was so loose with everything. And Trump is the exact opposite, and this is what we're seeing. But also he's going overboard. He is going ape. Okay, but like I said before, we need to respond to the balkanization, and we need not to be afraid about what is happening. We just need to continue to pay attention so that we can respond in a sustainable way, that we can continue to respond, not just in this generation, but in any time this type of thing comes up. We need to be able to prepare to know how to respond. All right, so that's all I have for today. I just wanted to kind of go over that. We will keep an eye on this because this is something that is going to affect every single American that lives here in the States and that lives here. I mean, if you are having, like, I just feel like, to be honest, like, for the president to say, like, if me, a birthright citizen, have a child with someone who is not a birthright citizen, my child is now at risk of not being a citizen, that kind of really irritates me. But at the end of the day, we have to keep fighting, and we will win if we stay organized and not be so, paralyzed by what we see. All right, see you guys later. Bye.